Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to a video about my Saqawal's flock build, or I don't know how you pronounce Saqawal, but basically I've been playing this tornado build since this helm was buffed in the 3.11 patch, and because I am the only person on the ladder playing this build, I've had a lot of people messaging me, asking me how the build works, how good I think it is, what upgrades I can get, and so on, that kind of stuff. So I decided to just make this video to explain this so that I can link this to people, or just tell them to go look it up, so that I don't have to explain it fully every single time someone messages me. So, the theory behind this build is basically triggering a level 20 tornado when you gain Avian's Might or Avian's Flight. Basically means if you can scale the tornado to do reasonable damage and get enough projectiles, you can shoot the tornadoes everywhere and use them to clear. As an example of how this actually works in practice, let's go to the Azurite mine so that we can see what this looks like if I start spawning a bunch of tornadoes. Now, this is with only 4 additional projectiles. You can use a Dying Sun, which you can see I don't have, to get more. But so that we don't have to listen to this noise the whole time, I'm going to go back to my hideout where you can see it is triggered upon changing between Avian's Might and Avian's Flight, which currently I am at the primary buff lasting 0.25 seconds and the secondary buff lasting 0.24 seconds. Now this doesn't line up exactly with server tick rates, but it does mean I get about 4 casts per second. And you can get significantly more than this. Something to keep in mind when I'm talking about this build and how good it is that my current version of the build is not fully optimized, and I could actually get about twice as many casts as I'm currently getting. Before capping out on how many casts I could get. So basically the idea here is you get the Saqawal's Flock, you get the Tornado, you support this with a bunch of support gems. I currently have Vile Toxins, Awakened Unbound Ailments, although regular Unbound Ailments would work fine, Diddly Ailments, and GMP. The really cool thing about GMP here is because it only has less projectile damage, it doesn't affect poison damage, which is how we're going to be scaling up our DPS. I have heard that there's another guy playing a Chieftain version that thinks that version is actually pretty good, but I couldn't get that to work out in Path of Building, so GMP is really nice for the poison version in particular. Basically, we're going to be using the Saqawal's Talons and the Saqawal's Winds to subtract a lot of duration from Avian's Might and Avian's Flight. These can both roll up to -2 seconds to the duration on each of these, and I would recommend looking for -1.85s or less. I think anywhere around -1.9 is pretty good, but the build is pretty functional on -1.85s. I used both of these as -1.85 for a while until I upgraded my boots when I was able to find better ones on trade. Anyway, so the aspect of the Avian, the important thing here is that we're supporting it with Awakened Swift Affliction, which has a larger number of reduced duration than regular Swift Affliction, so this is very important to be able to get more reduced duration and then less duration. I have a 2023, although this doesn't actually make any difference from a 1923. I haven't looked at the breakpoints on quality here as to whether these actually matter very much, but basically you just want as much of this as you can because less skill effect duration does scale how frequently we swap between Avian's Might and Avian's Flight, which is what triggers our Tornado. And further on that point, you use Warp Timepiece with a perfect 15% reduced skill effect duration roll. This gives you even more reduced duration. And again, most of the damage on this build comes from reduced duration, not less duration. While the less duration is 60%, this does give us a sizable multiplier. Stacking up huge amounts of reduced duration is how we actually get most of the damage on the build. To that end, you can see I have a Time Twist here that I'm also using with 6% reduced skill effect duration. The reason why I'm not using 2 of these and why I'm not using a 10%, which these can roll up to 10% reduced skill effect duration, is because there just aren't that many of them on trade, and I don't want to burn a bunch of Divines trying to hit a 10% and then potentially never hit it. Because the upgrade prophecy is currently requires a T14 map boss kill. I made this one myself and then divined it a couple times and hit 6%, but you can get a lot of extra casts by using a second Time Twist and getting better rolls. So the things that I would say are absolutely essential to make the build work are Saqawal's Flock, obviously, Talons, Winds, and then the Warp Timepiece. I ran the build without a Time Twist for quite a long time and was fine, and I also ran it without the Disintegrator and was fine. The other options are dual wield obliterations and dual wield bell timber blades. I generally recommend dual wield obliterations over most of the other options that you can use for like low cost damage, because obliterations just make your clear really spectacular. I did find that the single target with dual obliterations was pretty lacking, but realistically speaking, this is a really cheap, really effective way to scale your damage, and so I do recommend the dual obliterations if you don't want to use a disintegrator for whatever reason, but disintegrator just gives the most single target damage. In all honesty, if you look at the path of building numbers, using disintegrator is about 80% more damage comparatively to the obliterations. So the single target is obviously like not even close. So there's a lot of value in just running the disintegrator. Anyway, that's the basic setup. The other pieces of gear are kind of whatever. I'm using a life gain on hit ring, trying this out. I think it's okay. I don't think it's like insane. And then the chest and the belt are just resistances and life. The tree is very similar to what you would use on a Blade Vortex Assassin. There's not really anything special here. I am just like putting points over here because I'm level 93 now and don't have access to good cluster jewels because they're too hard to roll right now. So yeah. The big important thing is that with this tree is that you need to get this reduced skill effect duration off the tree instead of getting the increase, which is what you would do with Blade Vortex. But aside from that, the tree is basically the same as what you would use with Blade Vortex, and the Ascendancy is also the same. Again, Tornado is a base physical damage spell, that's why we're scaling the damage with Poison. And then I'm just going to show off really quickly just like a quick delve here. This is monster level 81, so it's pretty respectable. It's not insane difficulty, but just wanted to show this off as an example so that people can actually see how good this build is. And remember, when showing off the clear of this build, you can see I'm clearing reasonably quickly in a level 81 delve. This is with less than half the casts per second that I could be having, and also I don't have as many projectiles as I could have because I could have Dying Sun. So there's a lot of extra optimizations that I could get. And yeah, the real problem with this build, or like the biggest weakness of this build, I would say, is that there's just not a lot of ways to get a lot of durability. You can see I have 5k life, and with the life gain on hit ring, the recovery is really good, but it's possible to get one shot. That's another reason why I think the Disintegrator is significantly better, is because it allows you to use Leap Slam to get Fortify, which is a pretty big deal. So for the rest of the stuff, I'm going to link my path of building in the description of this video so that you can take a look at it. Yeah. This has been the build, and if you're interested in more, you can add me or whatever and send me a message and talk about the build if you want.